as a big thanks to, of course, all the fans for supporting it, because if it wasn't for the fans supporting the game and, the previous season, this probably wouldn't have happened. So a big thanks to everybody that helped make that possible and bought the game and spread the love of the game. You guys know, I mean, we have more people watching Tekken than ever. I thought for a while when Tag 2 was the main game that I thought Tekken, compared to other fighting games, wasn't in a good place. But now I can no longer say anything bad about it. I think we're in a good place and we're only growing. It's one of the few games in the space that is growing. Wow, cameraman. But yeah, so real quick, back to the match. We have Breadman going up against Tanukana from Cyclops Gaming.
I don't know Breadman. Is he one of the more well-known players in Korea?
I want to know about well-known, but he has played in a few TWT events. So we've seen him recently at the TWT event in Korea. I know he tried to go to a few other events as well. But he's one of the few Noctis players that we'll see. So actually, man, we've seen like 3 Noctis players already the past block. So he's probably one of those guys that was happily a happy customer from the season pass.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's just not used as much as what we see from Decent and Akuma.
Why do you think that is?
Personally, I think he doesn't have a lot of variety. He doesn't have a lot of the unique character traits and move traits that Akuma and Geese have.
Right.
That's just personally what I think. I mean, also he's very linear, and usually when a character is really linear, they have to have something else that's really good to balance it out. I mean, he has a lot of unique things. Like a lot of people probably don't know. Like, you can't low parry his sword attacks. You can't. He has just a lot of really unique things. I mean, he has the 2D jump like the other characters do, but he doesn't have like a meter. He doesn't have anything special in that regard. He just like once you've played him and kind of learned his moveset, it doesn't really feel like he has like kind of an evolution of the character or being able to take it to the next level like the other characters do. Because with Akuma and Geese, you could learn like crazy combos with them that do like 80% damage if you wanted to with the resources.
Right.
But with Noctis, it's like you have to play him the same no matter what, whether you have a lot of life or no life.
Yeah. I think part of it was intentional, because we thought that a lot of people who weren't necessarily playing much Tekken would pick him up because they came from Final Fantasy background, etc. So part of
Oh, he missed the rage art.
I know.
But that's the thing too, is like you guys talk about balance. I mean, balance is not only for the hardcore gamers. Balance is also for, the casual fan that just wants to learn to play the game, right?
Right.
It's hard to find a fun balance with a competitive balance. And I think if you're kind of catering to this towards the Final Fantasy fan or the fan of Final Fantasy 15 that might be getting into Tekken, you guys did a great job of transitioning the character because he plays just like he has moves that are obviously referenced from the game Final Fantasy 15.
Right.
But I mean, I like what you guys did with them. I won't use them because I'm a Tekken player, so
I get it.
That's just my feeling, at least. I'm sure everyone has different feelings on him. I mean, it's the first of his kind, really, in this type of game.
I understand how you feel. I mean, it's like we were talking earlier. I've been playing Akuma for the past 6 months, and then I returned to Devil Gene recently, and it feels good because I am a Tekken player, I guess. So it's fundamental, and it feels much more natural.
I will say this, like fighting against Noctis and learning the character how to use Noctis is actually a really good base level, maybe a teaching standard for a lot of fighting gamers. Like, since a lot of his moves are so linear, fighting against him will really teach people how to, sidewalk and sidestep and stuff like that. So I actually use him as a good reference tool for a lot of players to learn how to fight.
Makes sense.
Wow, last hit. Oh, that hit. Oh man, she is getting. That should be dead. Oh, this. Okay, never mind. I forgot about the last hit. My bad. Anyways, I want to ask you a little bit more about season 2. So, personally, how involved were you with the process of not only picking the characters, but also the design this time around? Because a lot of people already saw, the initial design for both Anna and for Lei.
Right.
They look very different from they did in the previous games in Tag 2.
Well, I was involved quite heavily, actually. The Tekken team, we have 150 to 200 people on the team at peak development times. But in general, we have a core group of, the people who are known out there, me, Harada, Nakatsu, Motohiro, the producer, and then a few kind of the team leaders, I guess you would call them.
Yep.
And we have these meetings that we have on a weekly basis. and that's where we kind of flesh out current goals, but also long-term strategy stuff. So that's where Season 2 idea came up with, and then
which is really a first of its kind for Tekken.
Right. I mean, we never really did much DLC. Like Harada was saying, Tag 2, we had some in the first 3 months, and then not much after that.
Yeah, but I mean, all that was really kind of like planned with the launch of the game, right?
Yeah, it's just extension of the original product. Where this time it's games as a service is kind of the key word that you hear in gaming a lot more now, where people, they want to continue to play their favorite games, so you have to continue to update it with content. That content, you have 100 some people working on the game. Obviously, you can imagine how much that costs to develop. You can't just keep developing for 2 years after the game's release on the cost of the package alone. So I don't think that many people expect that. There's a few on Twitter that do, but I think most people are more knowledgeable about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know there were initial comments that, Harada's intention was to, of course, make any future legacy characters free, and I know he mentioned that before, but I mean, just the reality of the development business is like, most of the team that worked on Tekken 7 aren't even part of the project anymore. I mean, most of those guys are doing different things within the company or within other projects for other companies. It's like, I would say personally, just knowing what I know is like impossible for anyone to expect this content to be free. That's just not how it works. I mean,
right.
If it was, I mean, obviously that would never get green-lighted from management kind of thing.
Well, like you mentioned, it's a big company, so the team members have to work on all kinds of different games. So to keep the core staff like Mishi Master and some of the more important people we need, this kind of Season 2 also makes a lot of sense because it keeps them working on new content, but also working on the game balance. Like we announced, along with the patch, along with the DLC 2, we're going to have a game patch as well, which will update the balance and add some new stuff as well.
Yeah, so we saw that in the trailer. I mean, there were just like little clips. I mean,
digging a hole for myself right here.
We saw like a wall bounce tactic similar to what Geese has with his full charge back too.
Right.
We saw new rage drive for certain characters. We saw Lei had a rage drive for almost every single stance.
Each stance, yeah.
So it's exciting times for Tekken because I mean, new stuff inbound, right? New stuff coming. Well, Tanukana evened it up there. I hate to not really try to ignore their matches. Just there's a lot to catch up on, especially when
you're so excited about Season 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I speak on everyone's behalf. Everyone's excited about it. So I actually really like. I saw the character story profiles that went out on the Japanese side at least.
For Lei and Nana.
For Lei and Nana, I think it's sick. So we kind of have an idea of why Nina's wearing a wedding dress now.
Right.
It kind of solves that, and then with Lei's design, it's completely different from kind of like what he looked like. He was more of a homage to kind of like Jackie Chan in the past, but he has a much more unique look. Is there any inspiration behind that?
Well,
he's wearing the Skajan and.
We look at, that's actually me, Harada, and Nakatsu work with the art director, Imura-san, on different concepts to show for the character. And I think Harada mainly did the most of the input for which direction on Lei.
Oh, nice.
It was kind of, he's been in the game for so long, but he still looked like he was, what, 20 years old, so.
Yeah, he still looked like a young guy, I would say.
And we realized that people kind of expect their characters to look the same throughout the series, for some people, right? But a growing majority of the people want realism, so, after 20 years, should he look more old? And so we tried to re-envision him at a more mature age, and I think we did a good job, and he doesn't have the Chinese, I don't know what you call it, the traditional garb that he had for Tekken 2, etc.
Yep.
It's more of an updated kind of what you might see from a cop who's on a mission somewhere, or in his private time. Because you saw the story, right? He's more, he wasn't so much into the police work. More recently, he's transitioned to his fanboy activities of.
Wow, she just popped off.
Wow.
She's like super happy, but she was able to take out, of course, Breadman from Korea. That was a very emphatic victory pose.